It all began 4 months ago in China. Shanghai's Pudong district played host to Stage 1, where Colombia's Sarah Lopez cashed in the financial capital of the Far East. And Denmark's Stefan Hansen asserted himself, seeing his efforts pay dividends. Next stop, Turkey. Stage 2 turned out to be a day at the beach, Konialti Beach, for Denmark's Sarah Sonicsen. The big surprise, Chinese Taipei's Chen Shan-Swan. Then it was on to Red Rock Country in the Rocky Mountain West, the Easton Center, site of Stage 3, and what a sight it was for Andrea Marcos of Spain. Same goes for Mike Schlosser, the Dutchman surviving a shoot-off with Stefan Hansen. Finally, the tour traveled back across the Atlantic to Germany. Sarah Sonicsen, once again, the belle of the ball, this time in Berlin. And this time, she'd share top billing with Turkey's Demir Elma Açla. Now it was on to the capital of Italy, to a city evoking the power of a legendary empire and providing the backdrop for an ancient sport's legendary gladiators. After thousands of arrows and hundreds of hours spent flying through the air to 4 tour stops, 7 women were left standing, led by 3 sensational Sarahs, Sonicsen, Lopez, and Priels. Tanja Jensen would reach the finals too, making Denmark the only nation with 2 archers in the field. In the quarterfinals, Sarah Lopez took care of Chinese Taipei's Chen Yi-Swan. Then came the upsets. The contender from Turkey, Yeşim Bostan, taking out 3rd seed Sarah Priels of Belgium. Denmark's Tanja Jensen drew the higher-seeded Andrea Marcos and sent the Spaniard packing. But true to form, top-ranked Sarah Sonicsen eliminated defending champion Marcella Tonioli. That set up a semifinal showdown between Lopez and Bostan, and Yeşim was indeed on the verge of knocking off the reigning queen of compound, leading by 2 going into the 5th end. But Sarah Lopez would rally with her final 3 arrows to tie the match at 145 and force a tiebreaker. In that dramatic shoot-off, Lopez would leave the door open, leaving her arrow high in the 10 ring and leaving the line resigned to her fate. But Bostan succumbed to the pressure, failing to sign Sarah's death warrant. When that shot landed, Lopez had the reprieve she needed to stay in contention for another gold medal in World Cup final play. In the other semi, it was the case of the dueling Danes, Tanja Jensen trying to avenge an earlier loss this summer to teammate Sarah Sonicsen. According to many so-called experts in many corners of the world, Sarah was expected to conquer all comers in Rome. But her coach Martin Damsbo knew it was not going to be that simple or that easy. After 5 rounds, nothing had been decided. The 2 teammates shooting the same score in each of the last 2 ends. And so it was time for another tiebreaker. Tanja would take the first crack at breaking this tie, and she would turn the heat on high, tattooing the 10 ring, putting Sarah on the spot. She'd have to be near perfect on her attempt, and Sarah Sonicsen was far from. This sent shockwaves throughout the world of archery, scuttling all thoughts of another showdown between Sonicsen and Lopez. After that sobering setback, a disheartened Sarah Sonicsen was right back on the line with a season on the line to try and salvage with a bronze medal from the finals. As Martin Damsbo knew so well, this would be a test of character for his young protege. Of course, the same could be said for the 22-year-old from Anatolia. Yeşim Bostan seemingly in better spirits, bolstered by another shot at redemption. Turkey's only hope of reaching the podium was in her hands. After 4 ends, so was the lead, which had been cut down to 1 after a late rally by Sarah Sonicsen. After shaking off the disappointment and fighting back, her chances seemed to dim with a 9 on her first shot of the fifth end. Bostan, now battle-tested, drawing on her missed opportunity against Sarah Lopez, she would put that experience to good use, putting more daylight between herself and Sonicson. To her credit, Sarah's determination drove her to keep fighting. But this late in the game, she needed some help. And she would get some when Bostan buried her next arrow just inside the 9 line. It was a 1-point match, 1 shot to go. The Great Dane left no stone unturned, but as she turned away, the look on her face said it all. The outcome was in the hands of her opponent. Moments before, Yashim missed an opportunity to sink Sarah Lopez, but this time she would come through in the clutch. A resounding 10 secured the victory for this terrific Turkish archer who clinched a berth for the finals in Berlin, where she built momentum by winning a silver medal in Germany. It all led up to a strong finish on the World Cup tour for Turkey's Yashim Bostan, with a pair of medals at the final 2 events on the circuit.
A second appearance at the World Cup.
Tanja Jensen had already slain one giant. Could she slay another? The odds were definitely stacked against her. Of course, she had defied the odds by beating Sarah Sonicson, so who was to say she couldn't do it again? The only one who could stop her was Sarah Lopez. The charismatic Colombian lost her top ranking this season and had come to Rome as the 2nd seed. That only seemed to add fuel to her fire and motivate Lopez all the more. One look at the scoreboard was all one needed to tell that Sarah was psyched. After taking the 2nd and 3rd ends, she would carry a comfortable 3-point lead to the 4th. Tanja Jensen knew it was go time, striking gold, giving her a measure of reassurance. But would it strike fear in the heart of her challenger? Not exactly. Nonetheless, Lopez did relinquish a point after planting her first arrow of the 4th end in the 9 ring. But before she could say, "I know," Jensen let Lopez off the hook, landing in the dreaded red zone. Now Sarah could double the lead from 2 points to 4, and she followed the script word for word. A bubble-bursting 10 meant Jensen had a steeper mountain to climb. Tanja would recover, taking a jab at Sarah with a much better effort. But Lopez would essentially land a knockout punch, coming up with another direct hit to put herself in the driver's seat with 3 shots to go. Jensen actually losing ground to Lopez in that 4th end, yielding 2 more points and heading into the 5th end with Sarah in command, thanks to a healthy 5-point cushion. With a light breeze blowing, any hope that Jensen may have harbored seemed to be blowing away. As the match went longer, Lopez got stronger. Like a shark smelling blood, Sarah was closing in for the kill. Her prey, not going down without a fight. Tanja Jensen recording a 10, which mathematically preserved her chance of catching Sarah. But that would take a catastrophic letdown by Lopez. Instead, she was pouring it on and bumped her lead to 7 with 1 to shoot. Jensen could leave the field with her head up, finishing strong after striking gold on her final arrow of the 2017 finals. But everyone knew the last arrow for Ms. Lopez was all but a mere formality. The Colombian Queen of Compound, putting an exclamation point on her victory with a string of 10s in the final end to cap off a commanding win. It was a storybook ending for the woman who started the season winning gold in Shanghai. But then her incomparable winning streak came to an end in Antalya. She would end up settling for bronze at stage 2 and then again in Salt Lake City. But after bypassing Berlin, Sarah Lopez would paint a picture Michelangelo might have admired, adding another gold medal from the World Cup finals to the ones she'd captured in Lausanne and Mexico City. Sarah Lopez is back where she was when the outdoor season started, atop the standings, ranked #1 in the world.
I'm really happy because I always wanted to be where I am right now, and it's crazy to believe that I already won 3. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing, and next year will be harder because I will go to school, but I will try my best and find a way to keep shooting.
In compound archery, there are 2 types of release aid.
This is a thumb trigger release. You can lock it by using this button. Then you hook it on like this on the D-loop. Then you gently squeeze the button till it goes off.
This is a rotation-style back tension release. It is activated by the natural rotation of your hand. When you hook it onto the D-loop, you're going to use the muscles in your back to pull until the shot goes off.
With the thumb trigger, you have more control, especially in the wind.
A back tension is used for developing and using the muscles needed for a consistent shot.
Both shoot tense.
You decide which is best for you.
On the men's side, a young man from Denmark had been the dominant figure all season long. Stefan Hansen finishing 20 points ahead of the pack. America's Steve Anderson and Braden Gelantine fighting it out for the 2nd and 3rd seeds, with Mike Schlisser qualifying 4th, along with the dangerous Damir Elma-Achla. Speaking of those 2 Americans, it turned out they were on a collision course, finally crossing paths in the semis, where Braden Gelantine jumped out to an early lead with 6 straight shots in the center circle. Down but not out, heading to the 5th end, Steve Anderson kept hope alive with an explosive shot. A shot that meant even more after Braden Gelantine countered with a 9, dropping his lead down to 1. The American Tower of Power wasn't pulling any punches. He landed another blow with his next arrow, building the pressure for Braden. But this time, Gelantine had the answer, and Braden would keep his teammate at bay with only 1 left in the quiver. Anderson would finish brilliantly, but would it be enough to catch Braden? Only if Gelantine was feeling generous. And in this Roman arena, it was every man for himself. Shooting quickly and confidently, the G-Man locked down a spot in the gold medal match. On paper, the other semifinal matchup looked like a toss-up. Damir Elma-Achla, a former World Cup gold medalist, coming off a gold medal performance just weeks before in Berlin. All that being said, he trailed the reigning world champion by 6 points going into the final end. Damir trying to dig himself out of a deep hole without much luck, but the deficit would not change as the jaunty Stefan Hansen matched that score with his first arrow of the final stanza. The tenacious Turk would strike gold with his next shot, but as is usually the case, that served as inspiration for Hansen, who zeroed in on the 10 ring and hit his target. For all intent and purposes, Hansen had this one in the bag. Elma-Achla going gently into the good night, giving Stefan the luxury of needing but to hit the target to chalk up another W. Hansen puts this one in the win column, bouncing back from a beating in Berlin where he lost his composure, something that was not a problem in this appetizer for the main course. So now Elma-Achla faced the challenge of putting the past in the past and focusing on the task at hand. which in this case would prove to be a tall order. Steve Anderson facing the same challenge, but his might have been even tougher after coming so close to shooting for the gold. Of course, he probably had the edge when it came to moral support with wife Linda in the coach's box. We'll pick it up after 4 ends. Demir dodging a disastrous first end thanks to an even tougher second end for Anderson that saw Steve score just 26 points. Everything else, even Steven, so just 1 point separated the two. Anderson aimed to tie things up, hitting pay dirt to open the 5th end. Lo and behold, he would get his wish. With Demir's dart dipped down into the 9 ring. It's even up at 124. Much like he did in the semis, Anderson was showing a strong finishing kick coming down the stretch. Whether that had a psychological impact on Elma Achla is pure speculation. What could be seen was a drop-off in production that left him in jeopardy, now down by 1 with just 1 to go. The former basketball player had a chance to salt this one away, but left the door open for Demir, who had an opportunity to tie the match and force a shoot-off. An opportunity which went by the wayside. To the victor go the spoils, a bronze medal for Big Steve Anderson, which is arguably his greatest individual accomplishment since he began competing on the international scene. Now, he and wife Linda each have bronze medals from World Cup finals, Linda winning hers 2 years ago in Mexico City. It is well documented that Stefan Hansen won the world title 2 years ago in Copenhagen, but none of the 17 gold medals he's captured in the past 3 years has been at a World Cup finals. It's the only gold medallion to elude him thus far. And Braden Gelentine aimed to keep it that way. To be fair, Braden's thought process probably had more to do with winning his 2nd gold medal at a World Cup finals than denying the lad from Denmark his 1st. With his father in the box, the G-Man would try to emulate his triumph in Tokyo back in 2012, where he defeated teammate Rio Wild. Shooting on target too, Gelentine appeared to be dialed in from the get-go. A flying start pumped him full of confidence, and he would need all he could muster against the young man ranked #1 in the world. Both men on their games early. Braden going back-to-back. Hansen barely biting the line for another 10 himself. No close calls for Braden. His first group, about as good as it gets. He's clean through the first end. And so is Stefan. Both men rising to the occasion, setting the tone for what was yet to come. The seemingly effortless form of Stefan Hansen on display, a style and form that's been a formula for so much success in such a short period of time. Under puffy white clouds and a deep blue sky, Braden Gelentine was more focused on yellow. Hitting the jackpot for the 4th time in a row. The onus was on Hansen, who should ask for a bonus after striking dead center. There would be no let-up by Braden. He couldn't afford to, with Hansen hitting on all of his shots. Stefan matching Braden blow for blow. But few are perfect, And the streak would end at 8 in a row for Gelentine, who walked away wondering if that one shot might determine the outcome. It would create some space between these two incredible competitors, Hansen slipping out to a 1-point advantage after the first 6 arrows. Between the two men, only one shot had failed to find the center circle. Gelentine, now trailing, seemed to grimace once he released the first shot of the third end, but it was almost dead center right down the middle of Via Nazionale. But now he was chasing a man who just would not miss. Hansen still one up. Braden building another brilliant group, almost splitting his first arrow. Stefan, not quite as precise, but every bit as effective. Gelentine's last arrow of this end, a bit off center, but still in the right neighborhood. He's done all he can for now, and he's perfectly positioned in case something happens. And it does on Hansen's 9th shot. So good up till now, he knew the moment he released that arrow, it was heading for no man's land. And 8 would take him from 1 up to 1 down after 3 ends. A startling reversal of fortunes that no one saw coming, especially Stefan, who might have had a few choice words in Danish for a shot that went awry. Now the hunter, Hansen shoots first to start the 4th end. And Stefan gets his groove back. Braden Gelentine still in his groove, gouging out another hole in the center of his target. But Stefan would hang on for dear life, trying to start another string of 10s and stay on Braden's heels. That was the best he could hope for, with Gelentine putting on a display of pinpoint precision. With so much at stake, Hansen simply could not afford to falter. But he did, and paid the price, falling even further behind in a match running out of real estate. Gelentine, large and in charge, a man known for showing emotion, the G-Man had his poker face on for this showdown. Under control, composed, and completely locked in on that tiny 10 ring 50 meters away, not to mention the gold medal just 3 shots away. Of course, Hansen had to have a completely different mindset and just focus on what he could control. First up to start the 5th end, Hansen proving he was still in business. At the same time, Gelentine had to control his nerves. All the pressure was on his shoulders, and he set out to prove he could carry the load. Stefan would flirt with disaster on his next arrow. Was it in? Was it out? They put a 10 on his scorecard. Braden, not about to take any chances. The safest strategy? Just keep them straight down the middle. Gelentine up 2, only 1 left to go. With daylight beginning to fade, the sun was setting on Stefan Hansen. Whatever chance he may have had went out the window when he closed out with a 9. Braden did the math and knew an 8 would get the job done. He'd only been outside the 10 ring once and had enough of a cushion to survive a 9 on his final shot. That clinched it for Braden, who got a big bear hug from a proud papa. The 5-year wait was finally over. After taking top honors in Tokyo back in 2012, the G-Man was back on top of the podium in Rome. Are you not entertained?
I definitely think so. I've shot some higher scores in final matches, but for my, my relaxation and my focus, this was at the top of the charts, for sure.
Braden deserved it. He shot really well. A lot of X's right in the middle. I mean, I did my best. I have no regrets.
Wow.